The Duval Rundown is brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Same-day injury care, no ER lines. Now here's your host, Gus Logue.
Good morning and welcome to episode 38 of Duval Rundown. My name is Gus Logue. Today I'm joined by Leon Searcy, who co-hosts XL Primetime in the fifth quarter here at 1010 XL. He played right tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Hurricanes. He's here to break down the Walker Little contract extension from Sunday with me and talk about what the deal means for Walker and for Trevor Lawrence and the team at large, including Trent Baalke and whether he's going to stay or go. But before we dive into all of that, we're going to do some Jaguars trivia like always. Trayvon Walker registered his 10th tackle for loss of the season on Sunday. He became one of three players in team history to record back-to-back seasons with double-digit tackles for loss within their first 3 years in the NFL. Which of the following Jaguars are not on said list? A, Josh Hines-Allen, B, Yannick Ngakoue, or C, Telvin Smith. So the question is basically which of those three players did not get double-digit tackles for loss in consecutive seasons in their first 3 years in the league. You got a guess for this one, Leon?
Yeah, Telvin Smith.
No, it was actually Josh Hines-Allen. That was a little bit of a trick.
Really?
Yeah, I think Hines-Allen was banged up a little bit in his second year, and so he didn't really play, or at least was healthy enough to really get that accolade. So, yeah, surprisingly, Telvin Smith and Yannick Ngakoue joined Trayvon
impressive
Walker on the list, for sure. But, yeah, we're here to talk about the offensive side of the ball. Before we do get to Walker Little, I wanted to ask real quick just your perspective on what happened on Sunday when Azeez Al-Shaair had a dirty late hit on Trevor Lawrence to concuss him, and then there was an ensuing brawl for about 10 minutes between both teams. So just especially as a former player and a player who played in a time when kind of such aggressive hits was probably more common, what were your thoughts as it was transpiring?
Well, I mean, it was unfortunate. You know, it was malicious, egregious. But we have a tendency to demonize players when they do stuff like that. And I'm not ready to demonize the kid. I think what he did was dirty, and it was finable. And he did get a 3-game suspension. And hopefully he learned from it, because that kind of play is just not acceptable in the NFL, to be quite frank. Because here's the thing. The game is already rough enough as it is. It's physical. It's intense. It takes wear and tear on your body, your mind, and your soul. The last thing you want to do as a player, as a competitor, is try to hurt another player. And that's what it looked like. The hit looked intentional, like he was trying to take Trevor Lawrence out. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. And he was villainized, and rightfully so, during the game. I'm not ready to demonize the player, because I hopefully he learned from it and doesn't make that same mistake again. But initially when it happened, me being a former offensive lineman who likes to protect his quarterback, I wanted him to get stomped out, to be quite honest with you. I did. I wanted to get stomped out, because I hate defensive players, especially these two players who take cheap shots. Yeah. And he probably did get stomped out, because I saw a lot of offensive linemen over there, that were coming to Trevor's defense, which is good to see. So now that it's over, now he's got the suspension, not all is forgiven. I don't like players to be demonized, because I'm sure he's a good player, a good kid, and he's taking the backlash of his. But you've got to deal with the backlash of what you do. Unfortunately, right. You got to deal with it. But it was unfortunate, and hopefully both sides learn from it.
Yeah, he got 3-game suspension, mostly because there has been past history of him having unnecessary roughness calls. Even just last week, he pushed Caleb Williams out of bounds and then punched Roschon Johnson in Chicago. And so I think Foye Oluokun put it well, and it's kind of the same thing that you were saying, where Foye said, I'm not going to say that he's a dirty person, but it was a dirty play. And I think everyone outside of Houston, Texas can agree that it was a dirty play. But to move on to Walker Little, he signed a 3-year, $45 million contract extension on Sunday morning. He said that the team approached him for contract talks during the bye week, and they were able to get a deal done on Saturday night so that he could sign the contract Sunday morning before the Texans game. So he's now under contract through the 2027 season, he got $26 million guaranteed. In terms of annual salary and guaranteed money, he now ranks top 15 among all left tackles in the NFL. And so what was your immediate reaction when you saw this news break?
Well, I mean, he must loves Jacksonville. I mean, initially I thought during training camp that if Walker Little didn't win a starting job either at the right or the left tackle, but mainly the left tackle position, I thought it would be in his best interest to tell his agent to find me another team, because essentially he's a swing tackle, and he's making swing tackle money, but he's starting. When I look at the elite offensive linemen who get paid at that position or at other positions, like that you're talking about over $100 million. You think about Juwan Taylor, who left here at right tackle, he made $80-something million. So Walker Little, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. Don't get me wrong, that's still a lot of money.
For sure.
But in my perception is it's not elite tackle money. It's good tackle money, and he just must be comfortable here in Jacksonville. So I have no problem with it. I have no problem with the contract whatsoever. I don't understand the rush, because you're talking about you're talking about months away from free agency. So him and his agent must have made the decision that, hey, look, I'm comfortable here. They want me here. No need for me to test the market. Let's get a deal done so I can stay in Jacksonville. It's a 3-year deal, but it's essentially a 2-year deal that can get out of it in 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the big reason for Walker Little specifically to sign this contract is because he does love the city. That's what he said yesterday during a press conference, reiterating that how much he loves Jacksonville and how much he wanted to stay here. And it makes sense because seems like not necessarily mild-mannered, but relatively chill for an NFL player or an offensive lineman. And Jacksonville is obviously a pretty chill and kind of low-key city, especially compared to just other NFL cities. And so I think it just makes sense. It's a good fit for the personality. And he said part of the reason he was cool with signing the contract now is mostly because he wanted to stay in Jacksonville, but also just to give him the security of if he gets hurt over these next few games, then he'll still not really have to worry about not getting money in free agency. Now he's locked up with the team long term. So what do you think about Walker Little's play this season, but really in his career so far? Because he only has about 24 starts in his NFL career through 3 years. And so do you think that the contract is warranted? Do you think that it's kind of iffy, but you think it's a good investment? Or what are your thoughts?
I think it's warranted. I don't like to call players average, because if you're in this league, you're an elite player. Less than 1% of all the college. So if you make it to the NFL, you're elite. So I never like to call players average. I won't call Walker Little. I'll call him serviceable. He's not 50-50 when it comes to blocking. He's more like 75-25. All right, 75% of the time he's on his opponent. He's using the proper techniques. He's focused. He's durable. He's physical. But 25% of the time he gets caught up and he gets beat. He gets beat on double moves. He gets bull rushed a lot because he plays high. He holsters his hands. He doesn't transition out of his sets that well. So I'm just saying that he 75% of the time, I mean, he's a serviceable offensive lineman. Those 25% of the times is where he struggles a little bit. I like to see it more like 95-5. I mean, when you're blocking somewhere at 95% of the time, and 5% of the time you're getting beat, that's what the elites do. I think right now he's serviceable. He's right there. I would say, as far as how many left tackles are there in the league? 32. Walker Little will probably be somewhere between 16 to 18, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you said it well when you said he's serviceable. That would be a word that I use too, because he's definitely not like a huge liability, and that it honestly goes a long way because there are a lot of teams in the NFL that do have that problem on either side of the line. And so for Jacksonville to kind of like lock that up and ensure that there's no liability, and to have this serviceable player who maybe could grow into more a consistent player, because I do think this league is all about consistency. And so since he hasn't played a lot so far, maybe he can grow into that 90-10, 95-5 player.
And you got to also understand this. I mean, getting that contract probably had a lot to do with Trevor as well. I mean, because if Trevor didn't feel secure with him at that position, being his blind side protector, I'm not sure he would have got that contract because quarterbacks do have a say, whether you believe it or not. And they have conversations with the quarterback. Hey, how do you feel with Walker protecting your blind side? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel secure? Those type of conversations are being had with the general manager and the head coach before a deal is even done. So I'm sure Trevor had some positive things to say about Walker Little that kind of, sealed the deal as far as him getting that contract.
So one domino that's fallen as a result of this new deal is that Anton Harrison, who was a first-round pick 2 years ago, is now going to be just entrenched on the right side, it seems, because there was some whispers just in town that he might be the long-term left tackle and move to that position after this season. But now that Walker Little has been extended and he's shown throughout his career that he's very much just a left tackle and isn't nearly as good at other positions, Anton is continuing to be on the right. And so I just wanted to ask what you've seen from Anton this season and how he's progressed from a really stellar rookie season last year and how you feel in general about him.
Well, I mean, listen, his rookie year, I was really excited about his rookie year. To come in, fresh off the draft in the training camp and start in the NFL as a right tackle is not an easy task. And I thought his rookie year, he had an outstanding rookie year. I mean, he transitioned out of his stance well. He was physical, used his hands. The only one game that he got baptized was against Chris Jones. But who doesn't get baptized against Chris Jones?
Right.
Exactly. So one or two things could have happened. He could have let that linger, or he could have learned from it. And what happened is he ended up learning from it, and he became a better player. So that he had an outstanding rookie year. Early on this year, he was a little shaky. And I saw it in training camp. He was cutting short on his sets. He was dipping his head. He wasn't using his hands. The guys were beating around the corner. And the early part of the season, that's what was happening to him. He was cutting his sets short. He wasn't utilizing his hands, and he was giving the angle to the defensive ends a lot quicker than he wasn't accentuating the pocket. Let me just say that. He wasn't accentuating the pocket with his pass sets. And he was giving guys a short angle to come around and get to the quarterback. But that was early on in the season. He's gotten a little better, fundamentally sound, technique-wise sound, using his hands a little bit more, finishing. So he's serviceable too. I mean, when it comes to him, when it comes to blocking, he's more like in Walker Little's range. 75% of the time, he's doing well. 25% of the time, he gets caught up and he gets lazy with his techniques and fundamentals. But listen, we got two serviceable tackles, which is good enough, I think, for the offensive line. The issue is the middle three. That's where the issue is.
For sure.
The three. I call them the grumpy old men. That's where we have the problems at.
Those three interior linemen, for sure.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how that position group, especially on the interior, changes, not just this offseason, but over the next 2 or 3 years, especially considering kind of the age, like you just mentioned, in that group. Just the last thing I wanted to hit on with you was the ramifications of the trade in terms of Trent Baalke, because I think as soon as the deal was announced on Sunday morning, a lot of fans went into panic mode thinking, oh, if Baalke is still making deals, then that means that he's probably going to be retained as general manager after the season. But Mia and I have both argued that Baalke has never made an in-season extension before. He's sworn against it. And so for him to now do it for a player that he drafted and brought up in his own system, to us kind of screams like it's a Hail Mary attempt, and he's trying to prove to ownership that he should stick around. And so what's your read on the situation? Does your thought process in terms of whether Baalke will be here go in next year, did your thought on that change at all after Sunday?
Yeah, it seems a bit suspicious that Baalke would do something like that, especially since he doesn't have a history of doing it here at Jacksonville. Yeah. But I do recall him doing something like that in San Francisco, and he still got fired. So I'm not. It's kind of a two-way street in what he's trying to accomplish, because maybe he's trying to showcase, one of the guys that he drafted that's playing pretty well amidst of all the bad that's been going on in Jacksonville. So it seems a little suspicious what he's doing. It seems like he's grasping straws right now because I think he sees the light at the end of the tunnel. He's trying to do whatever he can do to try to save face. But I just want to let Baalke know the pain is coming.
All right, you heard it here. The very last question I have for you is just what are your expectations for this weekend as the Jaguars travel to Tennessee with the assumption that Mac Jones is going to start? Do you think they're going to be able to keep it close, or is the season pretty much wrapped up? The Jags did get officially eliminated from the playoffs.
No, I mean, because here's the thing. I saw that Titan team play against the Texans 2 weeks ago, and their defensive front is even more formidable than the Texas defensive front.
Yeah,
and they get after it, and that's where we struggle. We can't run the ball. We can't protect. So it's going to be a struggle. It really is going to be a struggle. I don't. Down the stretch, these last 5 games, I don't have the Jaguars favored in any of them. Not a one.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this is supposed to be the easiest stretch of the season. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is the easiest stretch of the season, but I'm right there with you. I certainly don't have a lot of hope for them either, especially with Jones probably.
You know what? It's frustrating to me right now because before we got to the Texans game, if we were just mediocre, if we were just 5-6, before we played the Texans, these last 4 or 5 games, we could actually make a run at something and have a chance and possibly make it the playoffs. But I mean, we weren't even mediocre. That's so sad. And I think this might be the most disappointing Jaguar season ever because of the expectations of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a good point, especially with, I mean, everyone knows at this point, but how Shad Khan was hyping up the team before the season, whether Baalke or someone else gone in his ear. The team owner said this was the best team, best roster in franchise history. And so I think, especially with that in mind, I'm right there with you. It is definitely the most underwhelming season I've ever seen. And so that'll do it for us on this episode. We'll be back on Thursday with Mia O'Brien at 9:04 to further break down Jaguars versus Titans. Leon, thanks so much for joining. I certainly learned a ton, and I'm sure everyone who listens will learn a ton too. So thanks again. Good luck to your Hurricanes the rest of the year.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We will catch you next time.